YouTube comments from a video titled, Why Society Changed Forever After COVID. Part 1.
At Merxidum wrote,
Go to ground.news to stay fully informed and see all sides of every story on U.S. politics and more. Subscribe through my link for 40% off the Vantage plan for unlimited access.
At Tiffany_Solange_James wrote,
I think y'all were a little more relaxed in the US than Canada, with lockdown protocol. In Toronto, Canada, our lockdown was for 3 years, whereas in the States and other countries it only lasted around a few months or 1 to 2 years long. Not only were concerts plus events cancelled in Canada, but parks, gyms and beaches were also shut off by authorities to stop PPL congregating, as apparently you could catch COVID in the park plus beach. In nature, according to specialists. I was working in the corporate sector during that time and had to commute into the city centre. The pay was decent as a recent uni grad, but the city during COVID became very dystopian in feeling. On the subway, it was super duper quiet. There were no events, no festivals plus concerts or eating out, which is very much a part of Toronto. After those 3 years in isolation, I had to leave that cold city. A cold place is bad, but when you add a 3-year lockdown on top of that, no. I travelled around year 2 of Canada COVID to Ghana the year after the year of return, and Ghana had none of those serious social protocols. The nightlife and social events were kicking W just wearing masks. I went to a lot of art events, networked and met some great PPL. It was such a contrast compared to Canada. When I reached back to Canada after my trip, myself and others that had travelled abroad had to check in with government workers who required us by law to answer our phone and say we have been staying home and off the roads after returning from our travel trips. I heard from my Southeast Asian friends that their lockdown was in a way almost as strict as Canada's. Many PPL in those Asian countries, whether East Asian or Southeast Asian, can be very obedient, so unfortunately no one opposes those in their societal hierarchy / top of the pyramid. Oh well. They seem to be back in business plus pretty much back to normal at this time.
At Shannon Reynolds 2892 wrote,
Where was I during COVID? I worked in an ER. Death was not a break/chill time for me. I've never seen anything like that before in my career, and God willing, I never will again.
At One Yet Thing wrote,
Don't blame the COVID itself. People following the COVID protocol makes you think it happened before. The people overreacting on the common cold in social media was cringe.
At Chris Grove 7829 wrote,
Love this content. This is what we need, various and very valid opinions on the elephant in the room that has existed for the last 5 years. Thank you and keep up the great work.
Ihan PR1VR wrote,
Vaccine has nanotechnology magnetic in it. When it's time for the next phase, they will release another virus and switch on 5 grams certain frequency, and we will attack each other. COVID isn't over. It was just a phase in a bigger operation. Research polar shift. That's happening now in solar flare that can happen any second. Read Air Force report on society. What will happen? Gov will be powerless to assist in grid down solar flare. Grid will be down for years. Get prepared, people.
At New York_and Trail Runner 926 wrote,
People need to stop texting and start talking on the phone. Texting is a pre-planned, thoughtful pulling together your best words so that you sound funny, articulate, etc. This can make you feel uncertain and lack confidence when you have to have conversations in real time that are not planned and curated.
At MProductions wrote,
Interesting observation. In Berlin, Germany, during the pandemic, the entire party scene, for which this town is famous, came to a complete halt. However, people were never prohibited from going out to the many parks, where the flow arts and juggling and acrobatics community had been meeting for decades already. In result, the party folk, suddenly started doing that too, and giving the entire circus arts community the biggest boost it has ever seen. And this keeps snowballing, has turned from a niche into a full-blown subculture. The younger ones do have problems, engaging with others, yes, but even that seems to be getting less problematic in this specific community. This did not happen everywhere, especially not in places where even going to the park was restricted. For me and my peers, it not only saved us from the effects of social isolation, but actually turned a small limited group into a thriving, rapidly growing community. That being said, yes, I do see a lack of empathy, a lack of engaging with strangers, a lack of general politeness, even a lack of compassion amongst friends that, in my opinion, is mostly caused by social media, but that skyrocketed as people were forced to interact with the world through the internet all the time. Another change I see, which is a reaction to this, people use the internet to escape reality. Now, more and more are using reality to escape the internet. That is, imho, a beautiful thing.
As Sydney Schrack 70 wrote,
I did a bachelor's degree before COVID and then after tried to get another after COVID. And I needed some intro classes. Freshman was super annoying. They also didn't know how to write a paper. They didn't take classes serious at all. Couldn't read a syllabus. I think COVID affected the high school learning experience. And professors got exposed from totally having to change their lesson plans to digital platforms.
at Morgan Fry 3075 wrote,
I think the experience really depends on what state you lived in during the pandemic. I was in AZ, so we weren't locked down long. I can't imagine what it was like in some other states.
at Dragosink 4624 wrote,
Rudolf Steiner said in 1916 that in the future, materialistic scientists will make a vaccine that will extract the soul from people or the spiritual meaning of life. The people will be like animals without any empathy or soul. And the Bible confirms it in many places that in the end, times will be tough times to live. 2 Tim, 3 to me.
at Breeremk wrote,
Related to your other video about going no contact with harmful mothers, COVID gave me the space and perspective and time to reflect on my relationship with my mother and realize how abusive it was. I've been no contact with her for almost 5 years now, and it was the healthiest decision I've ever made, and I don't know if I would have made it without COVID.
at Thepis Kamesaliv 2082 wrote,
Nothing is the same, and it does piss me off, and it will never go back to where it was, but I think it should get better, not stay like this, or get worse. Because COVID is real, I'm not saying it isn't real, but what I am saying is this: somebody planned this whole thing deliberately on purpose. And they were getting a big thrill out of seeing our reactions and what we are trying to do to get out of it. I think somebody maliciously planned this.
Constanzalade wrote,
People don't talk about the people who, like me, had to physically go into work as usual during COVID/lockdown. The only thing that changed for me was the level of idiocy I have to deal with every day.
at Inkling Duckling 7087 wrote,
For me, it was devastating. It was more like 4 years than 2, because I refused to get the poke in NYC, and I lost my job and was rejected from med school. And it broke me. I lost friends. Community. Many jobs would still not take me even after mandates lifted. People treated me like a plague rat. It left me not wanting to interact with people anymore.
at Thiefendation Agent 61 wrote,
People just revealed their true colors in that crisis, and the few remaining, relatively decent souls were probably utterly taken aback by the sight of it all. Well, welcome to my world. I ain't so much of a cynic now, huh?
at AlphaRaptor 7510 wrote,
Thanks to COVID, I technically lost 2 years of my important teenage years.
16, 17. 18 wasn't so much better.
During that time, I was mostly outside on the farm, just playing around with car.
At Memiself5954 wrote,
COVID just brought out the worst in human. Bad people got worse. Introvert became more introvert. The good people got tired of being used. Victims became more entitled. Common sense gone. Radicals and criminals. Lawless. If caused so much damage that people can't live without the stupid masks, like if they are hiding something. I see a lot more hotties and teenagers, and all the ugliness became style.
At Midnight Mughal wrote,
At 15, I had to be stuck in a wheelchair, and with my degenerative legs and vision. This taction nice a liar mice and vision mice and vision mice and vision mice and vision mice a liar mice and vision mice and vision mice and vision mice and vision mice its cells. And vision mice and vision mice and vision mice and vision mice and vision mice. This taxin nice and vision mice and vision.
At Bunny00000 wrote,
456. It's not that easy, man. Some of us developed anxiety and panic disorders due to the pandemic. I've literally been diagnosed with agoraphobia. High knee. It's so easy to sit in front of a camera and tell people to just grow some balls and socialize.
A Shadow 12 Guard wrote,
If COVID never happened, I wouldn't be the person and be where I am at work-wise. I always saw it as a great pause on life. I stayed at home and played the game every day, became closer to my family, saved a lot of money, started understanding myself and what I wanted out of life. I was finishing community college to do carpentry in March of 2020. And COVID hit, and I never got into it professionally. Went to be an aircraft mechanic 2 years later. One thing that really bothers me is that now I am more quiet and awkward around people. Merne. In 2023, I noticed I started overthinking every interaction with people to the point where I would rather say nothing.
Princess_Bubblegum wrote,
This reminds me of how I went to pick up an order at a burger shop, and the two girls who ordered in front of me were standing aside waiting for their order, and when I glanced over at them, they looked at me like they were being hunted for sport. People are so scared to even be perceived outside without a screen between us, or perceived in general. People are so scared to even be. Add this to the brain overload of constant scrolling, and it causes this fight or flight, even in the lost basic circumstances. It's not healthy at all.
At Charity Schroeder 8439 wrote,
2020 was for sure the worst year of my life. COVID should have been awesome for me because I am a super introvert. I love my family and friends, but I crave solitude. It ended up being horrible though, because my husband went to boot camp at the end of 2019, and what was supposed to be 12 weeks of separation, followed by a few months where I had to fly across the country to see him, ended up being 10 months of separation with extended periods of time where he didn't even have his phone. There were about 6 weeks where he was waiting to be moved to the next phase in his training pipeline, and he was stuck in a huge barracks with at least 100 other dudes, and zero privacy. We could talk on the phone, but we could hardly hear each other because of the guys all around him going stir-crazy and just making incessant noise. That's how. Yeah. Bia. Da. 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 We had friends lose their businesses, lose their jobs, not be able to pay rent, when One friend got pregnant and almost had an abortion because her husband was in the
restaurant industry and they had been living paycheck to paycheck before the shutdown even started.
Then, she had to give birth alone in the hospital. The pandemic was rough for me, but I feel so bad for the people who had it a lot worse.
Claire Coleman 08U wrote,
I was in about 3rd grade during quarantine, and it has made my peers noticeably behind educationally speaking. One sen. People talk about playing on their iPads during classes rather than learning core mathematics or ELA lessons. I can also agree with the fact that we missed a lot of socializing. I am awkward in conversations, and it may just be me, but I feel behind in my socialization skills. Quarantine made us all screwed, especially the younger generations.
At Datamothman 3644 wrote,
During COVID, I was 17 and at a girl's home. I honestly am so thankful I was there because originally my social skills were terrible. I had bad social anxiety. But after spending lockdown with 30 plus girls, it really helped my ability to interact with people, especially when first meeting them. Seeing how many people say they can't talk to the waiter, can't do phone calls, can't schedule appointments is bananas. I have had friends tell me they love seeing me go into extrovert mode when talking to strangers/customer service when it's actually just regular socialization. Connection is super important for me, and it's baffling how many people are willing to let an opportunity slide. I've made it a personal goal that if I have a compliment, I say it, and it's really opened up a lot of doors for good conversations with people. My most recent job was driving buses and giving tours in Alaska, and the fact that 16-year-old me was terrified to talk to anyone who wasn't my family, to literally working as a tour guide some 6 years later, and talking to strangers all day honestly makes me proud of how far I've come.
At Eric Bass Knight 2068 wrote,
What lockdown? I worked 40 HRS a week through the entire event. I might be the odd one here, but I don't understand any of this. My life didn't really change with COVID.
At Claire Harrison 500 wrote,
I'm so aware of this. But I keep being true and being me regardless how sheltered people want to be. Social anxiety, I scared OFAME. I will yap and come up to you and say hi.
Chris Nichols wrote,
I live a few hours from Austin. It was a regular place for me to visit for a weekend before COVID. I kept hearing all this crazy shit happening in the cities. It was super stressful for all the obvious reasons, but after my job was able to figure out a way to keep me working, it was definitely a vibe. I was only allowed to take orders to customers. I wasn't supposed to do anything else. We listened to different music all day. It was fun until we had customers coming back in and having to enforce masks or else. It sucked.
At Focused Abyss 8164 wrote,
COVID wasn't what caused us to lose those years. It was the government officials who enacted draconian, overbearing orders to help us. They did more damage than the slightly worse flu virus.
Seshadeo wrote,
I agree with the guy at 1524. As a solitary person with little to no social connections, no desire, want, or need to interact with others, lockdown was a boon. Completely unfazed by masks plus restrictions. Nobody to bother me. I just minded my own business, going anywhere I wanted without distractions. Loved it. I miss the dead quiet roads and streets. Minus the crazies unable to handle pandemic restrictions lashing out at others. It was such a vibe.
At Andrea Hunter 2471 wrote,
Being a senior in high school during 2020 meant no prom, but you already bought your dress. No lead in your last school play. 'cause no school play, no graduation, no last hurrah with your friends before everyone headed off to whatever was still going to happen and wasn't cancelled. Freshman year in college was more isolating than your first year would normally be. It's when you meet your future best friends in the dorms and social gatherings and parties and clubs and sports. But those things weren't not guaranteed to happen. On the plus side, if you were more than happy to hang with your quarantine gang in your senioritis and didn't care about anything mentioned above, then yeah, I guess it could have its advantages for anyone with no plans or ambitions, and they like being with their quarantine family.
Ed Alganestrowicz wrote,
IWAS expelled from Rush fandom because I refused to comply with god-awful COVID measures. And also I wanted to see Rush in Poland, alas Neil Peart deceased.
At Mimi Smithson 5372 wrote,
I personally loved lockdown, and I know that I'm privileged to say that. In the UK, we had the best weather we've ever had. I don't think it rained once until October from March, which literally never happens. I was so focused on working out and self-improvement, and I made so much progress for myself in that time. I understand lockdown wasn't like that for everyone, though.
Calistine wrote,
My 18th birthday was the day a national emergency was declared and many of the lockdowns began, including school. Losing those last couple months of senior year was bittersweet, not getting to say goodbye, and no prom. But I was happy to get out of there, especially because I had just broken up with an unhealthy friend group. Plus, we got to social distance graduate at a brand new baseball stadium, coolest ceremony location I've seen for sure. During the quarantine, I made so many friends online, and it was definitely like a long summer break. I started a new job, then another in 2021. Both were great experiences. So much that was negative occurred during the lockdown, but I thought I'd share a couple positive things instead in response to the video of the guy who said it was such a good time for him.
Ed Eva Nicole wrote,
I graduated high school during lockdown. I still feel 17, and I'm 23 now. I've been able to recover socially, but have noticed a lot of others haven't. Most people in my age range are closed off and don't know how to reciprocate conversations and build relationships. It's lonely out here.
At Weld Corflux wrote,
I believe social media has made people see how other people think, and they want no parts of anyone anymore. Because you know everyone's inner thoughts and beliefs, and now people are avoided. I, for one, don't know anyone I thought I knew, and I don't want to know anyone anymore. Society sucks, and people aren't worth knowing. It's just all drama and distrust in who they are, and everyone is out for their own gain, and no one is genuine anymore. And the post people have put out shows that. Oversharing your thoughts like a public diary has destroyed human connections, because now we know who people really are and how they think. I want no parts of anyone.
At World's Great Stood 1784 wrote,
Life impacting and changing moments are things that just change things forever. 9/11 COVID as global examples. I think the world was better off before COVID. Things were just better for us.
At Art by Pau Masonette wrote,
I have the obligation to lock in now because I lost my job back in April, and now I got the blessing to work on an independent project as a designer and now coding it. During COVID, I was 20 to 21 and I hit rock bottom mentally. I did have my job, but my mental state was in the decline. I was in a toxic relationship that made it worse. But overall, I agree that 2020 has changed all of us. It was a blessing in disguise, just like losing my job back in April.
At WictyWint wrote,
2022 app, get a grip. Literally, WTF did you just say? Like, that cannot be a take in the midst of a goddamn genocide. Like, did you learn anything in school? History class? If you ignore it, It gets worse, you idiot. We have to do something. All of us, even if that is talking about it constantly. WE can't forget Palestine because WERE human. Go do a check on the mirror and take a good look at yourself. Why do you feel this way, BC? Honestly, it's insane.
The Poison Pen Revelation wrote,
regarding the lady talking about how she used her time to her advantage during COVID, I don't like using this term, but she is talking from a place of privilege and ignorance. She had an abundance of time, so presumably wasn't an essential worker and had no kids. Her home life would have facilitated for being able to focus too. She wasn't locked down with young/old family members that required additional levels of care, abusive family members/partner, etc. She also wasn't suffering from crippling physical or mental health issues. Some people really were not able to cope with being so isolated from friends and family that they spent most of the time either talking to them online or engaging in escapist behaviors ranging from binge watching shows to drinking and taking drugs. There are also a lot of people who actually spent the time doing a lot of self-reflection that have no hustle to speak of from that time, but have transformed themselves on the inside. I suppose these people should have been studying or starting their own business instead of working on themselves. It's the height of arrogance to say that everyone should have used that time for their hustle. I would expect it from ignorant people like her, but I expect better from someone like yourself.
A Jessica WK5I wrote,
My youngest does that. From how are you doing today to what do you want for dinner? What's on your plans? Everything is I don't know. It is so annoying.
At Cutiedia3628 wrote,
I really do not understand the guy who said high school was great during COVID. I was also in high school and then in my first year of uni. No graduation, no formal, no valedictory, no prom, no actually supporting each other through rough final years of high school. Constant loneliness and no support, people only talk by playing Among Us. Then I get to uni and went out of state, no fun first years, no. Meeting new people and socializing, no week, no clubs, grades just plummeting because no one understood what it meant to be a high school student versus uni student. I graduated from uni last year. The first time I met my head of college and my lecturers was at my graduation ceremony. 3 years after lockdown now, I'm at my first not minimum wage job because I couldn't work during lockdown or even after cause there were no jobs, and so am now drowning in student debt. And I have been working corporate for 6 months. Small team and still haven't met most people because they work remotely. However, I have never ever seen any work they have done this entire year because they spend the whole day not working. Instead, they go and have brunch with friends, go swimming in their hot tubs, go partying in the middle of the day. Etsy, COVID sucked. Can't change my mind.
Evudurai wrote,
Phones changed meeting people organically. I'll look at a group of 20-somethings at the bar. Their faces are buried in their phones. In businesses decorate specifically to get the right photo for content. So then people are more wrapped up in posing/editing/posting than actually interacting with their friends or meeting people. Social skills have literally turned into a skill that many younger people lack.
Pancakes Edits wrote,
The age thing/time being frozen is so true. I was 20 when lockdown started, and for like 4 years after that, when I had to think about or bring up my age, I saw myself as 20, not 23 to 24, Etsy, whatever.
A Thunder 9236 wrote,
When I was young, my mom noticed I was always wanting to be alone. Not time by myself, but I literally wanted to be alone. I had a long period of time where I had no feelings. My mom made me make friends and go out with those friends. I had more feelings, but not much, and really got used to being around people and enjoyed it. COVID brought back what I used to be, A loner. I don't feel much of anything, and I like to be alone. Problem is, I'm married and have kids. I don't want my son to be like me. Fortunately, he was born during the pandemic and isn't that old, but he's been asking why I don't really smile or make any expression, and now he's asked why I don't have friends. It only bothers me because I don't want my son to be alone and locked away from everything and everyone.
Chachislid wrote,
I think this was the first time you've ever stereotyped my group. Saw it from a different lens today. Cave woman brain wanted to react mad before realizing, wait, he's right. Keep doing these videos. I like how everybody catches a stray with you. You can tell you don't have hate in your heart for one group or one race or one cliche. You're just like a disappointed mama I need with my coffee in the morning.
Admisyame wrote,
Locking in and working on your progress is not a male thing. It's universal. I see more men slacking off when women are working, raising children, taking care of the elderly relatives, etc., etc.
Adnanalamamy 1408 wrote,
1744. I live in a prominent black community, Mexican, and I find it a lot easier keeping to myself last time I opened a door for someone or said, "Good morning." I just got stared at and laughed at.
As Sunset Alu wrote,
To be fair, bars are stupid and based around using alcohol as false confidence and leads to bad things. I refuse to even be friends with anyone who gets drunk. If they take sips of alcohol, that's fine, but obviously there's a difference. Even when I become an adult, I want be friends with people like that due to experiences, since it's basically having fun at others' expense.
Etta Vardriggs wrote,
I've been doing online school since COVID started, and people always said I'd have bad social skills because of it. But honestly, I think my social skills are pretty solid for my age. People usually think I'm older than I actually am. I had 2 jobs during high school, so I got used to talking to adults and handling real-life situations instead of just being stuck around kids at school all day.
Teflon Von wrote,
Lockdown was peak life for me. As a self-reflecting introvert, it wasn't much of a lifestyle shift at all. Discord and FaceTime calls, Zoom rooms, video game lobbies were as full. Was getting unemployment checks, so many bills were given months of grace or forgiveness. OMG, what a time for me personally.
At Shesmkal Traviolet wrote,
As a millennial who didn't find being in lockdown to be personally a big deal, probably because I'm introverted, the seemingly overnight behavioral change in people was glaringly obvious. People went from 0 to 100. It was like being on an 8-hour plane ride, dealing with a bunch of children throwing a temper tantrum the entire time. People were more irritable, angry, rude, selfish, arrogant, etc., simply because they weren't getting their way. The entitlement was, honestly, through the roof. And people had no qualms about being outright mentally. Emotionally abusive people were really showing their entire asshole, and TBH I am here for it with the mask ripped off. You're easier to spot and avoid, if not just full-on cut off anyway. Insanity is what happens when you choose constant consumption and attention over your emotional and mental well-being.
At Andrew Murray 9391 wrote,
With the Think Independently teacher, I'm an educated thespian with a focus on humor. For a while, I thought I was just bad at my job. Nobody got the joke. But I'm noticing more that people can't seem to allow 2 ideas to exist at once anymore. E.g., topless bar. Money, no good. Top and easy customer numbers, great tits though. Sounds like tits. As you can see, there is uncertainty about what type of situation, as the wording allows both. You then get nervous as your dirty mind takes control, hence, catharsis. Therefore, laughing. Instead, if someone even attempts to understand, they would argue that there are no tips as there are no customers. Well, as you can see, I think diversity and communication advancements have made it so we are always unsure, so the implication space is overwhelming, and we have to defend ourselves by pretending to be too smart or too logical to be bothered.
And beyond this, KYYY wrote,
My friends and I are all gamers. And while COVID happened in our junior year of high school, we were already used to being outcasts by our peers. We thought it was funny watching people freaking out about lockdown. To us, it was the perfect vacation.
and Joan Bergeron wrote,
I agree with this young man over the disconnect since COVID. People are all so busy or living in their own bubbles because I think they got used to it during COVID. And it's almost like you have to make an appointment to talk to somebody by phone. Lol, or you try and reach out and text them 'cause like I've been told you need to reach out to people, and I do, and then I get ghosted and I never hear from them for the longest time. And I just think, wow, what is happening? I don't go out as much anymore like I used to. I stay home a lot because it's just a very lonely experience. People are really nice sometimes, and people aren't so nice some other times, but there's just this strange difference. And believe me, I've been around for a long time. I'm a 67-year-old woman, mother and wife and grandma. And now that I'm retired and I have time and we're not on lockdown anymore, it seems almost as if people have forgotten and they are mentally on lockdown. It's really sad, but I have also seen even in myself a very big and large distrust of the world. Distrust of our government or people that are in higher power. Because, like what you said, we've been lied to. Also, it reaches out to churches and the news media as well. But crazy as it is, I think I have spent more time on YouTube and on trying to find good news or real news. Should I say after COVID ended?
as Shadow_Storm06 wrote,
I was a senior in 2020, and I was stuck with my narcissistic and emotionally abusive ring-wing mother through most of the isolation during the pandemic. Home life isolation sucked, then we had senior prom canceled, and most didn't get graduation ceremonies. And for people like me who hated school dances but were looking forward to our senior prom, it was genuinely devastating. I just turned 23 in April this year, but I constantly feel stuck like I'm still 18. I had no room to adapt to becoming an adult. And trying to be an adult now with finding jobs, saving for a house, etc., is genuinely so difficult with the evident collapsing of society's system.
Casey Borges wrote,
I eat out alone. I have backpacked Europe alone, cuss. I wanted to go and no one could afford to at the time I wanted. I've gone to see Ari alone, met a girl who was also there alone. Do things alone. It's not the end of the world.
Bounty Sunepu wrote,
After lockdown, it felt like we went through a wormhole and time sped up. Not to mention society is cooked nowadays. I graduated high school in 2019. Luckily I was a social person and went out and talked and did all that. My social skills never really wavered, unlike a lot of kids I know that graduated after me.
Yaoxiaoui wrote,
The lockdown started in around 8th grade for me, and there were other factors that prompted these things that
happened beforehand, but I gained horrible social anxiety that I'm only now being able to inch out of, and it got
me from the highest in my class to needing to look up the answers to everything, both because no one was
teaching me, and I couldn't understand everything in school after the lockdown. Felt like a lulled fever dream. Idic, what's wrong now? But even when I do get happy, I'm bored of it so fast.
At Sarah McDonald 9624 wrote,
I was one of the lucky ones who made it to my 30s before all this started.
I was one of the lucky ones who made it to my 30s before all this started. I was one of the lucky ones who made it to my 30s. I still very much compliment people, say hello, and engage in small talk. I didn't realize it was rare until I try to go out in public and people walk within 2 inches of me and don't even acknowledge my existence. I'll be standing there looking at them with a smile to my fellow human and it's just a blank wall. So yes, that happens.
I am in a large city though.
Either way, me just staying the person I am has made me memorable to a lot of people. 2. Gas stations, nail salons, the doctor I visit once a year, they remember me. Restaurants. Honestly, it's kinda sad because I'm doing the least and people think it's the most.
Adaf00 and Cle50 wrote.
I had just turned 20 on lockdown started 6 months prior, graduated high school at 19. I only got lucky at the end of 2022 right as I turned 23 with finding some social spaces. If you're young and you're watching this, just get it done before, then I turned 26 this year.
At Hannah Keating 97 wrote.
I was an essential worker during COVID. I worked at Chipotle. I never had that full lockdown experience, so I can't really relate to people that were homebound during COVID.
Xander Reno wrote.
There are some people now who get annoyed at you for having manners. They treat you like you think you're better than them and they don't have time for your nonsense. It's so weird because you're just being polite, but they are the ones judging you and portraying it as you judging them.
It's sad. No why.
At Sunshine Goddess 777 wrote.
Unfortunately, I was stuck in not just one but 2 COVID lockdowns with toxic family members. I didn't want to get vaccinated but got yelled at daily to get it. I now have a heart arrhythmia disorder, which thankfully is slowly healing, but it was caused, I believe, from getting vaxxed plus extreme stress I was under about 3 years ago. I think if I had been living with a partner, or with a friend, or even on my own, I would have done okay being locked in for a few weeks or months. Chid. I still would have hated it, sure, but it wouldn't have been as horrible if I wasn't stuck with certain family members all day, every day.
Ethelic Show 499 wrote.
NG, 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 N. COVID hit, things got super weird. I noticed I tended to save more money to the extreme, and I had friends that had to move to other states, or separate from their GFs, move out, and sell cars and jewelry. That baller lifestyle was definitely done. Then came the government bailouts that helped, but some PPL was so deep in debts that money didn't even make a difference mentally. I got to learn myself. I gained weight. I'm yes, now shedding off. I used to party a lot before now. After COVID I never go anywhere. Because PPL are way too low. Weird acting, some never recovered financially, so they're just living life upset, waiting for a conflict to crash. Alden, I'm 3 years older, but don't feel it at all. COVID was a social and financial reset. If you survived it, then you're blessed. A lot of PPL didn't.
At Yafin Lyric wrote.
I went into quarantine at 14. 19 now. Crazy memories. I think my manners and communication skills are great, but I do feel like they'd be so much better had COVID never happened. It stunted me for a while and I had to work myself back to normal. I can tell the people who never recovered from it, and it's unfortunate. The pool. I also have friends that are leagues above me. They can charm and strike a conversation with anyone. I love it. They're great role models for me. I feel like I'm getting up there too. I've always been talkative and friendly, just a bit awkward at times. I also do the goal of complimenting someone every day. B. Love you content. No, no, no. Unshell. No, no. Comparax.
At Mugalingamerland wrote,
Due to my small town in my country, only having friends that they know since they've been in school, and I was bullied atrociously, just for me being a different nationality. Quarantine changed nothing for me. I've been going to the movies by myself since I was 11, and gigs since I was 18. People need to realize it's a luxury to have friends and a loving family.
At Avalon Flax 1843 wrote,
Yes, the world is much colder now. Just go to walk around malls and Walmart. Very few people have pleasant expressions on their face. Yes, things do cost so much now, but a smile goes so far to some people.
At McKenna Lynn 1916 wrote,
This is a great video. I feel like during COVID, I just relaxed, but productively, like I did things that I always wanted to do, like read books. I want to read, play games, want to play, etc. I definitely let myself go during that time. But then 2022 came around, and around the end of the year, I locked in, and have been locked in ever since. I play hard, then work hard, I guess you could say. Also at 27. 49, I have to say I disagree with what you said about her behavior being toxic/dangerous. I think she wanted to know things because she needs a sense of control. It's great to prepare, but if you don't have the money to prepare, it would create a sense of fear, right? Just my thoughts.
De Crocoliday wrote,
I think a lot of it is a subconscious collective shame. We all have moments we're not proud of, I certainly do. And while they're not on our mind at all times, they can subconsciously affect our behavior. I think that's potentially what we're seeing. At this point, most folks know they were conned into following what was ultimately destructive policy, whether they want to admit it or not. They placed their trust in experts and science without ever looking at who the experts were, who they represented, or what the science actually said. They just followed it because they were told it was the smart, kind, caring thing to do, and many ridiculed anyone who tried to raise the alarm. I know quite a few that admit they feel this way, and they're kind of pissed. But inside, I think they're also aware that their compliance and refusal to question makes them at least partially responsible for all of the negative impacts of bad COVID policies. Things like kids being over a year behind in school, the permanent closure of 30% of small businesses, the psychological impacts on society, the financial impacts, including the greatest transfer of wealth from lower/middle class to the wealthy in human history, and much more would not have been possible without their support and compliance. A lot of it can be written off as being lied to, but not all of it. I can't imagine that isn't weighing on people's psyche.
As Sandwich_Eater wrote,
I work in fast food and take orders often. Teenagers and young adults more often than not cannot order for themselves. If they're by themselves, they mumble their order and seem to have no idea what they want or what anything is. And you keep saying, I'm sorry? So they'll say it again, but at the exact same volume. You then ask them to speak up because you cannot hear them and they still don't. A girl asked me for a chicken chunk sub. I said, a grilled chicken sub? She said, a chicken chunk sub with yellow cheese. Her and the girl she was with looked like they were from another planet. It was like me and my coworkers were others. They looked so concerned. It was so bizarre. On the other hand, if they're with a parent, they'll make their parent order for them. I will ask them what they want, and they proceed to quietly say their order to their mom right in my face. Every single question that is asked directly to their face after the fact is the same. I'm 18, and most people that come in that are around my age just have no sense of communicating with strangers. DoorDashers or anyone with an online order will just stand there behind the counter where we can't see them, waiting for us to ask them about their order.
They never try to get our attention. They just sit there and wait. Half the time their order is on the rack. If they happen to be confident enough, they'll then get mad that they don't have their order yet, which is very uncommon for these particular people because they're so shy and have no sense of self-advocation. Most of my friends are in their late 20s spanning all the way to 71. It's just so uncommon that an actual fulfilling friendship can be made with people my age. It's a very unfortunate situation.
At snooze button 9996 wrote,
As an introvert, my life was basically the same during COVID as it was before and after. I now just have the option to work remote, which is great.
Assuaged Eliosphere wrote,
I enjoy complimenting people and things that I like that are on them as well. When working front desk at a hotel, I would compliment men's beards. Especially. I know that sounds weird, but men never get complimented on their physical appearances as much as women do, especially when they take time and care for themselves as well. So to see them feel good that someone noticed them, that made me feel good too. But one time a coworker of mine was like, "Why do you compliment men like that?" I don't just compliment men like that. I compliment everyone that I see that I feel deserved needs a compliment. I don't think compliments should be a gender-specific thing, and I don't believe in hating on either gender either.
At Carol Noel 2468 wrote,
Not everything bad comes with no good, but I will say the pandemic definitely hindered a lot of our growth as teenagers and young adults, not to mention family members or friends who got sick and those who even passed away. May they rest in peace.
At Amarigi wrote,
I hated quarantine. I felt even more trapped than usual as a Sam. I couldn't take my kids anywhere. I was stuck at home all the time. Would never ever do it again.
The Crash Cabbing TV wrote,
COVID didn't change much around me. Here in the Midwest, we did what we wanted to do. Everyone still hung out. We still had events like demolition derbies with packed crowds. After the 2 weeks to stop the curve, everyone pretty much just accepted it for what it was. Officials around here didn't bother to stop it because they knew they couldn't.
At Facts of the Confederacy 7151 wrote,
I was working the whole time, and I was being called a conspiracy theorist for speaking about its origins. I also was almost fired for refusing to wear a mask.
At Flabbergasm 247 wrote,
Quite frankly, 2020 to 2023 were years that I simply didn't, and still can't, process. I don't know what happened after school shut down, and what I did. I don't know what happened the year after. I don't know what 2023 was, even though those were my most conscious years ever. It's like everyone was given something to numb those years, even if crazy and / or tragic shit did happen.
At Damien Hagedorn 8990 wrote,
I still, whenever I drive around, I don't even do that often anymore. But whenever I do, even today, all I see are businesses that have been closed as a result of 2020.
At Yanathi 3 Explorer wrote,
I still greet others and hold the door open for others. I still say excuse me or yes sir or yes ma'am because my parents raised me and my siblings. Well, COVID didn't strip me from that, but I have encountered so many people, even kids that have no manners. Even people my age or around my age don't have any manners sometimes, but there is still a few that have manners. It's just very rare. A little story time. Me and my family went to an amusement park. And we are the ones saying excuse me whenever we need to get by, but when it's others trying to get by us, there was no excuse me or I am so sorry after they pass by or bump into us by accident. It's just wild. Even with kids, they just don't say it.
At Macy 3560 wrote,
I'm an autistic woman who already struggles with social cues and has social anxiety. When I was 19/20, I was actually making progress. I was trying to branch out more. I was trying to learn. I was really trying. Then COVID happened. I think it legitimately took my social skills into the negatives, and for a moment I felt like a literal robot. But I'm finally getting a bit better, or at least closer to where I was. However, I generally think people lack empathy or are just generally meaner and far more cliquey and aren't open to making new connections. And it sucks because I'm so tired of being lonely.
At the Gridgam 3 are wrote.
COVID was a great time for me. My job was 8 to 12 for 2 days, and the rest of the week I was off and getting paid for it. I couldn't leave the area, but I never did that anyway.
At the Gridgam 3 are wrote.
COVID was a great time for me. My job was 8 to 12 for 2 days, and the rest of the week I was off and getting paid for it. I couldn't leave the area, but I never did that anyway.
At Jespelson Mama wrote.
I gave birth to my first kid at the end of March 2020. I did not want visitors even before lockdown. I was actually grateful for the pandemic because it gave us an excuse to deny people from visiting. My parents hated it.
At Christabot 2437 wrote.
You nailed it. I have 4 kids who were in high school, middle school, and grade school during lockdown. Luckily, our schools were only closed for 4 months, but even that was enough to make it harder for them to learn how to socialize with strangers. TikTok hitting right at the same time doubled down on the lack of authenticity that we are all craving. You do exactly what I urged my kids to do, and that is to choose positivity. Happiness is a choice, way more of a choice than people realize. You can see the world as bad, or you can see it as a good place where bad things happen. Keep choosing to see the good.
At Werbing wrote.
I was a senior in high school when COVID hit, and I'm from Florida. Not much changed then and now from where I am from. Not sure if it's just my town or what.
At Mom Before Life wrote.
I was raising 4 young kids while attempting to homeschool 2 of them, while also trying hold down a full-time job that became remote. All by myself, no help. I was running around like a chicken with their head cut off. It was very insane for me. I feel like I have been traumatized but also really enjoyed it at the same time. Looking back, I have no idea how I did it. I know my kids are not the same. My kids got way too much screen time than ever before, to the point that I noticed changes in their behavior during the times I allowed it versus the times I didn't. I went back and forth. But I also had to work a job, so I needed some help, and if screen time is what could give me that time, so be it. Lost my temper due to the overwhelm more than I would like to admit. I became a yeller mom. I feel that I was not a very present mom, but more like in survival mode for a few years. I feel like I am still picking up the paces that fell during those years. I try to give myself grace as I did, and am doing my best. Nothing has been the same as before 2020. I cannot fully put it into words, but I can feel it.
At not_for_everyone_what I wrote.
Absolutely agree. The world really hasn't been the same since 2020. People's social skills definitely took a hit, and you can feel it in public spaces now. Less eye contact, less small talk, less basic manners. It's like we forgot how to be around each other. That said, I had to work straight through the lockdown since I was considered an essential worker. No pause for me. While a lot of people were reflecting and finding themselves, I was grinding through the chaos. It gave me a whole different perspective on just how much the world shifted, not just socially, but mentally too.
At Murnham007 wrote.
I think a lot more people have solidified their positions on whatever hot topic of the day is, and certain sides are no longer interested in having good faith discussions, and are quick to disassociate from others whenever there is disagreement.
At Torre5864 wrote.
I actually get what the young guy was saying about lockdown being fun.
My wife and I got into a lot of hobbies at home that we never had time for when we were in the office. The problem is there was no shock to get everyone out of arrested development like there was that got us into it. If you didn't shake out of it on your own, then you were probably dragged kicking and screaming back to reality sometime in 2022.
At Lucia Zakant 9647 wrote,
Quarantine was one of the most awful period of my life. 2 months at home with my parents, while many other young men and women were locked inside with their partner.
Amadia 1164 wrote,
1549. I was supposed to walk across a stage and have a huge party and go to prom and celebrate in 2020. But instead, I drove through the school parking lot and accepted my diploma through the car window. Lol. It was so disappointing. And I lost touch with a lot of my friends. It was so lonely and isolating during a time where you are meant to run bravely into the world and experience the youthfulness, carefree, yet independent time between the ages of 18 to 21. I was so naive, isolated, in college away from home, in a scary COVID-scarred world, and it definitely put me in a place where I entertained a very toxic and traumatic relationship that was only exacerbated by the lockdown and lack of in-person services. It lasted way too long because lockdown made it so hard for me to break out of comfortable but unhealthy habits. I always felt like if I could be out with friends like I used to, it would have helped buffer the insanity of a pandemic and like indirectly protect me from my own naivety as friend groups kinda do. I came out of lockdown feeling like I learned nothing and lost years of my life. It took a minute to recover and feel safe in the world as an adult, and it sucks because the world is actually a lot scarier than the pandemic ever was. I'm not going to blame the pandemic for my personal choices, but I don't think I would have made certain choices had there not been the pandemic. So yeah,
At Shannon Lamp 9331 wrote,
Changed since 2020 for me equals friends, family broke apart because some people got shot and some didn't. Friendships broke. Family members died. One early one was my Aunt Maureen. No one was allowed to visit her in hospital, nor we allowed to have a big family funeral for her. Definitely media was lying. I was aware of this then, beauty now. As it is brought to light to be facts, it's just sweep under the rug by anyone of my family that was yelling at me that I was killing people by not getting shot. That was some dang harsh accusations, but no, I'm sorry anywhere. I think it forever changed COVID talk. That will always be the lie inner thoughts to most Americans.
At Citrus Butter 7718 wrote,
I didn't notice anything different. Personally, I think the world got worst since 2015 and peaked in god-awful in 2018 and been flatlined in that level since then. 2020 just made them slightly more socially weird.
At Mathemortar 7803 wrote,
It's kind of funny. I don't think I have ever heard someone else say it, but I have the same rule. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it. But if you have something nice to say, say it. If I think something like, oh, I like that person's shirt, I will tell them, hey, cool shirt. It's such a simple thing, but it really does raise the positive energy and is an important practice to focus on the positives and not just the negatives. On the other things you talked about, I worked through COVID, so my life didn't really change. Work just got a hell of a lot more stressful and difficult, lol. On the part about kids not thinking, yeah, I have seen it. You're like, what do you think about this thing that is personal to you? And they are like, I don't know. And I'm just like, but I'm asking about you. You're the only person that could answer a question about you. How could you not know, lol?
At Bigoy Pilloy wrote,
COVID was nothing to me. I had to work. I bought in bulk for a small household and was set. People going buck wild, and I just do not get it. It wasn't anything particularly different for me.
At Drew a Photo wrote,
I live in Florida.
People became much more rude overall, but people in their early to mid-20s like myself, I feel like still are very open to talking to new people overall.
At Maxtadinosaur 4804 wrote,
I definitely changed because of COVID. I was in 7th grade and I just graduated high school and I just don't know how to keep friends. I wasn't good at it before COVID, but COVID happened and I realized that I actually prefer being more by myself and just chilling, not having to deal with people, and now people are somewhat trying to go back to normal. But everyone is so rude in public now, and I try so hard to compliment people and have since before COVID, but now people seem to get mad at getting complimented and people don't seem to want to be perceived, and it's so strange. I'm going into college and want to actually make friends, but so many people don't want to talk to people or make new friends.
At user SL7YM1ZQ3N wrote,
There were so many males that just took COVID to play video games or mess around for 2 years. A ton of women worked really hard on their goals during COVID. In America, there's so many successful and driven women.
Christina 2B wrote,
COVID changed everything for me. It woke me up to politics and how much we are lied to on the news. I couldn't believe people were losing their jobs over this. Even after getting the vaccine, you still got it and spread it. People just doing what they were told. I couldn't believe it. How people did no research. Casa never mens res. And thought our government was looking after us. Just blind faith. We were on lockdown, and BLM was out in the streets, made no sense. 100 Chine. We were on lockdown. We were on lockdown. We were on lockdown. We were on lockdown. Rinich Straits made no sense. And BLM was out in the streets, made no sense. We were on lockdown. We were on lockdown. We were on lockdown. We were on lockdown. And BLM was out in the streets, made no sense. How cruel people were if you didn't fall in line.